I was sitting on the sofa after simple dinner, sipping hot tea in my quiet Atlanta home, when my niece Zuri walked in, holding her fresh wedding photo album. She looked so radiant in a simple white dress that reminded me of her bridal gown, just 7 days after her big day. Her new husband Damon sat beside her, grinning widely. Then he placed a white envelope on my coffee table. I didn't touch it, I just stared. This will help us build a stronger family bond, Damon said with that polished smile. Financial planning for the future. It's just documents, Aunt Fumzile. I'm brilliant with money. Give me a month with smart investments and we'll be rich. We want to set up a fund for our future kids. You get it, right? Zuri nodded eagerly, as if every word was gospel. Yeah, that's right, Aunt, she murmured briefly. My stomach twisted in knots. The envelope was thick and crisp with my name scrawled on it. Take a look when you can, Damon added, standing to clear his cup like it was no big deal. We're off on our honeymoon tomorrow, but this will streamline things later. I stayed silent, waiting until they left to open it. My hands trembled. Inside were forms claiming I'd agreed to transfer part of my assets to an account Damon would manage. He had no clue what he was after. No one did. Not even Zuri knew. When my brother died, I inherited $10 million and I never told a soul. Not Zuri, not the lawyers, not even the bank until I hid it under a false name. Thank God I kept silent because now I saw Damon's true intentions. I'd encountered men like him before, cruel souls masking as kind, boasting things like, "Give me a month, we'll be rich," before their traps sprang. Before I share more, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please hit that thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It helps spread stories like this to more people. I couldn't shake the unease that settled over me like a heavy blanket as I sat there alone. The envelope's contents scattered across my lap. The papers felt cold and official, their legal jargon swimming before my eyes. Words like asset transfer and joint trust management that screamed control. How had Damon managed to draft something so bold, assuming I'd just sign away what little he thought I had? But he didn't know the half of it. That $10 million from my brother Jamal's estate wasn't just money. It was the lifeline he'd left behind after that horrific car crash that took him and his wife, leaving Zuri in my arms at just 5 years old. I'd buried it deep in secrecy, not out of greed, but because I'd seen how wealth twisted people, family turning on family like vultures circling. And now here was Damon with his slick words and that envelope poking at the edges of my carefully built walls. I leaned back against the cushions, the tea now cold in my cup, replaying the evening in my mind. Zuri had been unusually quiet, her nods quick and her words sparse, like she was holding back a storm. Yeah, that's right, Aunt, she'd said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Was she in on this? The thought stung like a slap. I'd raised her as my own through the sleepless nights of her childhood grief, the awkward teen years where she rebelled against the world but clung to me. We'd shared everything. Recipes from her mother's old cookbook, stories of Jamal's laughter echoing in our small home. But lately, since Damon entered the picture, she'd changed. Her eyes darted away more often and her hugs felt rushed. Was love blinding her, or was there something darker at play? I rubbed my temples, feeling the familiar ache of doubt creep in. Men like Damon always had an angle. I'd learned that the hard way in my younger days, working double shifts as a nurse while fighting off advances from smooth talkers who saw vulnerability as opportunity. The clock ticked softly on the mantel, marking the late hour, but sleep was the last thing on my mind. I gathered the papers, folding them neatly back into the envelope, my fingers lingering on the seal. It was too perfect, too premeditated. Damon had cleared his cup with such casual ease, as if this were just another family chat, not a calculated move. And Zuri, why hadn't she spoken up more? She usually bubbled with excitement about their plans, but tonight she'd let him lead, her murmurs like echoes rather than convictions. It made me wonder if she sensed something off too, or if she was complicit in ways I couldn't yet fathom. I stood up, pacing the living room, the worn carpet muffling my steps. The photo album she'd brought lay open on the table, images of their wedding day beaming back at me. Zuri in her gown, Damon with that same grin, but in one shot, his hand rested possessively on her shoulder, fingers slightly too tight. A small detail, but it gnawed at me. By morning, the doubt had hardened into resolve. I hadn't slept much, my thoughts churning like a stormy sea. As the sun filtered through the curtains, casting long shadows across the kitchen, I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, the aroma grounding me. I wouldn't confront them outright. Not yet. That would only drive Zuri away, and losing her would break me more than any financial scheme. Instead, I'd test the waters, see how deep this ran. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through contacts until I found Kwame, my old lawyer friend from the community center days. He was sharp, a fellow black professional who'd navigated the system's biases just like me. Kwame, I said when he answered, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. I need your help with something discreet. He listened as I explained the envelope, the forms, the unease that had kept me up. Sounds like a classic power play, he replied, his tone measured. You want me to review it? I hesitated, glancing at the envelope now tucked in a drawer. No, not just review. I want you to help me craft a fake one, something that looks real but reveals nothing substantial. Say I only inherited $300,000 after debts. Make it seem like that's all there is. There was a pause on his end, then a low chuckle. Famzil, you're always one step ahead. Why the decoy? I leaned against the counter, staring out the window at the quiet street. To see what he does. If Damon's after money, he'll bite at even a small bait. And if Zuri's involved... My voice trailed off, the words too painful to finish. Kwame agreed, promising to have the documents ready by week's end. As I hung up, a knock echoed through the house, sharp, insistent. It was barely 9 a.m., too early for visitors. My heart skipped, a prickle of foreboding running down my spine. I approached the door cautiously, peering through the peephole. A young man in a crisp suit stood there, briefcase in hand. Not Damon, but something about his polished look screamed trouble. I opened the door a crack. Mrs. Johnson, he asked, flashing a professional smile that didn't reach his eyes. No, not Mrs. I'd never married, but I let it slide. It's Ms. Pumzile Johnson. Can I help you? He introduced himself as the lawyer for Damon and Zuri, extending a hand I ignored. I'm here regarding some urgent financial amendments. My stomach dropped again. Amendments already? He held out another set of papers, thicker than the first, and there at the bottom was Zuri's signature, hasty, almost reluctant. Why had she signed without telling me? The questions piled up, each one heavier than the last. I invited him in, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to probe deeper to understand how far this web spun. As he sat at my dining table, the same one where Zuri had done her homework as a child, I crossed my arms, refusing to sit. Explain, I said flatly. He launched into his spiel, all smooth legalese about safeguards and family integration. But I cut through the fluff, zeroing in on Section 7, 2, parental asset disclosure and pre-inheritance trusts. It was a demand to reveal everything, to hand over control. My mind raced. Did they suspect the full amount, or was this just fishing? Zuri's signature stared back at me. Her looping handwriting, familiar yet foreign in this context. Had Damon pressured her, or was she testing boundaries too? The lawyer droned on, but I barely heard him, my thoughts swirling with memories of Jamal's warnings about greedy relatives. Did Zuri read this? I demanded. His tight smile faltered. They're young. They trust each other. Wrong answer. I slammed my palm on the table, the sound echoing. Tell Damon he'll wait. I don't sign without my own review. He left annoyed, but I felt a spark of empowerment amid the fear. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about protecting what Jamal had left for us. As the door clicked shut, I exhaled, the weight pressing harder. Zuri's quiet demeanor last night replayed. Her minimal words, her nods. Was she complicit or caught in the middle? I needed answers, and my trap would provide them. Little did I know the real revelations were just beginning. I couldn't ignore the chill that ran down my spine as the lawyer stood there, his briefcase gleaming under the morning light filtering through my front door. His handshake was firm, too rehearsed, like he practiced it in front of a mirror every day. Ms. Johnson, he corrected himself smoothly, but I caught the flicker in his eyes, annoyance at my correction, or maybe just impatience. I stepped aside, letting him in, though every instinct screamed to slam the door. Why? Because curiosity burned hotter than fear right now. If this was part of Damon's scheme, I needed to see the threads, pull at them until the whole thing unraveled. He strode into my living room like he owned it, placing his briefcase on the dining table, the very spot where Zuri used to color pictures of our family, her little hands smudging crayons everywhere. Those memories hit me hard, making my chest tighten. How had we gotten here from innocent drawings to this invasion? He snapped open the case, pulling out glossy documents that shimmered like they were printed on expensive paper. This is a precautionary measure, he began, his voice polished, almost robotic. Damon and Zuri are consolidating their assets, and this includes potential family contributions. Contributions? The word landed like a slap. I stayed standing, arms crossed, my back straight, despite the ache in my shoulders from a sleepless night. He flipped to a section, pointing with a manicured finger, Section 7. 2. Parental asset disclosure and pre-inheritance trust setup. It was a demand, plain and simple. Reveal any hidden wealth, feed it into their pot. My mind raced. Did they know about the 10 million? Or was this a blind grab, hoping I'd crumble? Zuri's signature at the bottom looked rushed, the loops in her Z tighter than usual, like she'd signed under duress or distraction. Had Damon hovered over her, his hand on her shoulder again, guiding her pen? I leaned in closer, pretending to read, but really studying him. His tie was knotted perfectly, but a bead of sweat trickled down his temple. Nervous, or just the Atlanta humidity sneaking in? Did Zuri actually read this? I asked, my voice flat, probing for cracks. He shifted in his seat, that tight smile returning. They're young. They trust each other completely. The answer hung there, evasive, fueling my suspicion. Trust, such a fragile word. I'd trusted Jamal's family once after the crash, only to watch them squabble over scraps while I shielded Zuri from the chaos. Now this felt eerily similar. Was Damon the puppet master, or was there more? I imagined Zuri at home, her quiet nods from last night echoing in my head. Why hadn't she spoken up? Was she afraid, or playing along for reasons I couldn't see? The lawyer droned on about protections and planning, but his words blurred as my thoughts spiraled. Each phrase he uttered, family unity, secure future, twisted the knife deeper. Unity. This was control, pure and simple. I pictured Damon last night clearing his cup with that casual flick of his wrist as if sealing a deal, and Zuri murmuring her agreement, her eyes averted. Had she sensed my unease, or was she hiding something? The room felt smaller, the air thicker, my heart pounding in my ears. I interrupted him mid-sentence. Cut the fancy talk. Show me the money part. He paused, surprised, then turned the page, pointing again. Simple terms. Disclose everything or risk complications. Complications. What a euphemism for theft. Anger bubbled up, hot and sharp, but I swallowed it, channeling it into resolve. I'd survived worse. Racist bosses at the hospital, nights wondering how to pay bills while raising Zuri alone. This was just another test. Tell Damon he'll have to wait, I said, my tone ice cold. I don't sign anything without my own lawyer. His face tightened, a flash of irritation before he packed up, polite but clipped. As he left, I exhaled slowly, the door's click echoing like a gunshot. Alone again, the house felt too quiet, too empty. Damon must think I had something worth chasing. Maybe Zuri had let slip about my stability after Jamal's death. But why her signature? Was she in love, blinded, or worse, involved? The doubt gnawed at me, mixing with hurt. She'd always been my girl, confiding in me about boys, dreams. Now this silence felt like betrayal. I paced the kitchen, the coffee forgotten, cooling on the counter. This wasn't just paranoia, the pieces fit too neatly. Damon's grin, the envelope, now this lawyer, it screamed agenda. I grabbed my phone, dialing Kwame. He answered on the second ring, his voice warm, familiar. Fumziel, everything okay? I poured it out, the visit, the documents, my fears. He listened, patient as always. Sounds off, he agreed. You want me to look at them? No, I needed more. Make fakes, I said. Claim I only got 300,000 after debts. Something believable but small. He paused. A trap? Exactly, to see if Damon bit, revealing his hand. Kwame chuckled grimly. You're sharp as ever, why? Because if he chased even that pittance, I'd know his greed knew no bounds. And Zuri? Her role in this haunted me most. As we hung up, promising delivery soon, I sank into a chair, exhaustion washing over me. The dining table still bore the imprint of the lawyer's briefcase, a faint outline like a scar. I traced it with my finger, questions swirling. What if Zuri was protecting me somehow? No, that seemed too hopeful. Her murmurs, her nods, they pointed to complicity. But deep down, a mother's instinct whispered otherwise. I'd raised her to be strong and independent. Maybe she was playing a game too. The uncertainty clawed at me, building like a storm. Whatever came next, I'd face it head on. For Zuri, for Jamal's legacy, for us. The weekend dragged on like molasses, each hour stretching as I waited for Kwame's delivery. When the package arrived Saturday afternoon, discreetly wrapped in brown paper, I felt a surge of grim satisfaction. Inside were the fake documents, pristine and convincing, stamped with mock bank seals detailing a modest 300,000 inheritance whittled down by fictional debts. Kwame had outdone himself. Even I had to double-check they weren't real. I placed them casually on the kitchen table, half hidden under a stack of mail, like forgotten clutter. Not too obvious, but easy enough for prying eyes to spot if someone came snooping. The house felt watchful now, every creak of the floorboards making me jump. Was I paranoid? Maybe, but after that lawyer's visit, trust felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. I imagined Damon slipping in while I was out, his fingers rifling through my things, those same hands that had rested too firmly on Zuri's shoulder in the wedding photos. Sunday passed in a haze of routine chores, laundry folding, garden weeding, to keep my mind occupied. But thoughts of Zuri kept intruding, sharp and unwelcome. Her brief murmurs that night, her eager nods without real words. Why the silence? She'd always been chatty with me, sharing every detail of her life. Now it felt like she was holding back, letting Damon steer the ship. Was she scared of him? Or had love turned her into someone I didn't recognize? I paused mid-fold, a shirt crumpled in my hands, the fabric soft from years of wear. Jamal's old flannel was still carrying a faint whiff of his cologne. He'd warned me about men like Damon, charming on the surface, rotten inside. "Protect our girl, Fumziel," he'd said before the crash. I was trying, but doubt whispered I was failing. Monday morning brought nothing. No calls, no unexpected visitors. I went about my day, volunteering at the community center, helping elderly folks with their meds. Their stories grounded me, reminders of resilience in our Black community, facing odds stacked against us. But back home, the quiet amplified my anxiety. I checked the table. The papers were untouched. Was the trap too subtle? Or were they biding their time? That evening, as I microwaved leftovers, my phone buzzed. A bank alert. My heart lurched. I opened it with shaky fingers. Suspicious activity on an old account. Attempted login using my maiden name. Maiden name? The one only Jamal knew intimately, and I'd shared with Zuri during late-night talks about our family history, her eyes wide with curiosity. "That's so romantic, Aunt," she'd said once, giggling. Now that memory soured. If not for her spilling it, how did Damon know? Or was it him at all? The alert detailed the IP, somewhere generic, untraceable, without help, but the timing screamed connection. I sank into a chair, the microwave beeping forgotten. Heat rose in my cheeks, a mix of anger and betrayal. They were digging, probing my past like thieves in the night. And Zuri, had she betrayed that sacred story? The thought pierced me deeper than any knife. I'd sacrificed everything for her, my youth, my dreams of travel, pouring it all into her stability. Was this how she repaid me? Or was Damon coercing her, his grin hiding threats? I pictured her face that night, her minimal input, like she was observing him too. No, that was wishful thinking. The evidence pointed to complicity. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them away. Crying wouldn't help. Action would. As dusk fell, I retreated to my study. The room dim save for a lamp's warm glow. The fake papers lay in one hand, the real ones locked away in the other. Their weight felt symbolic, deception versus truth. I traced the forged signatures, my mind whirling. 2 days of nothing, then this breach. It confirmed my fears. Damon was hungry, testing boundaries. But why the old account? It was empty, a relic from before the inheritance. Maybe a trial run, seeing if I'd notice? The audacity boiled my blood. I'd seen it before, in Jamal's relatives whispering about fair shares. After the funeral, their eyes greedy. I'd shut them down then. I'd do it again now. Night deepened, the house creaking in the wind, each sound amplifying my isolation. Sleep evaded me, my thoughts a tornado. Zuri's voice echoed, "Yeah, that's right," so subdued. Was she in over her head or playing me? The uncertainty ate at me, but it fueled determination too. No more waiting. I'd confront them, but on my terms, with faint gratitude masking my trap. If Damon bit, he'd expose himself. And Zuri? I'd learn her truth, painful as it might be. Dawn broke gray and heavy, mirroring my mood. I brewed coffee, the steam rising like my resolve. Picking up the phone, I dialed Zuri. She answered brightly, her voice a jolt after the silence. Aunt Fumziel, what's up? I forced warmth. When are you two back from the honeymoon? I've got those papers ready. Let's do lunch, my treat. A pause, then excitement. Oh, that's great. Damon will be thrilled. Thrilled. The word hung there. Ominous. They thought they'd won, but lunch would serve a different course. As I hung up, staring at the phone, questions lingered. What would their faces reveal? The trap was set. Now, to watch it spring. The day of the lunch arrived like a storm cloud I couldn't ignore, heavy and ominous. I chose the Garden Restaurant downtown, a quiet spot with blooming roses and koi ponds where Zuri and I used to escape on tough days after her parents' crash. The air smelled fresh, laced with earth and flowers, but it did little to ease the knot in my gut. I arrived early, settling at a shaded table, my hands clasped tight to stop the trembling. Kwame was already there, disguised as my insurance buddy, his casual polo hiding the sharp mind beneath. Ready? He whispered, his eyes scanning the entrance. I nodded, but inside turmoil churned. This wasn't just a meal, it was a battlefield, and I was arming myself with deception. They pulled up right on time, Damon's sleek car gleaming in the sun. He stepped out in a sharp blue suit, tailored just right, like he was heading to a board meeting instead of lunch with family. Zuri followed. Her cream blouse simple, but her face etched with worry lines around her eyes I'd never noticed before. Was it nerves about me or something else? She hugged me lightly, her grip looser than usual, and I caught a whiff of her lavender perfume, the same one she'd worn since high school. Damon shook my hand firmly, his palm cool and dry, but his smile didn't reach his eyes, those dark pools that seemed to calculate every move. Aunt Famzile, good to see you, he said smoothly. Zuri murmured agreement, her voice soft, eyes darting to him. We sat, ordering quickly, salad for Zuri, steak for Damon, soup for me. Kwame introduced himself casually. Just an old friend in insurance, and Damon nodded, but I saw his glance, assessing. The conversation started lightly. The honeymoon beaches, the wedding mishaps. Damon spun tales of lost luggage and a borrowed boat, his laugh booming but forced, his fork tapping the plate rhythmically, like he was impatient. Zuri chuckled along, but her smiles were tight, her fingers twisting her napkin under the table. Why is it so quiet? She'd always jumped in with her own stories, her energy filling the room. Now she deferred to him, nodding at his jokes, her eyes flicking to me apologetically. Was she ashamed or signaling something? The doubt twisted deeper, mingling with hurt. I'd taught her to speak up, to stand tall against the world that often pushed black women down. Seeing her subdued like this felt wrong, like a piece of her was missing. As the food arrived, the air thickened. Damon leaned forward, setting his fork down with a clink. Aunt Fumziel, let's clear the air, he said, his tone sincere but slick. I didn't mean to push with those papers. I just want us to build something solid as a family. His eyes locked on mine, unblinking, but I caught the micro-twitch in his jaw. Nerves or calculation? Zuri shifted beside him, her hand brushing his arm briefly, but she stayed silent, watching. I nodded slowly, sipping my soup to buy time. The broth was warm, but it sat heavily in my stomach. Build something? More like tear down what I'd protected for years. I reached into my purse, pulling out the fake disclosure, folding it neatly before sliding it across. Here's my financial reveal, I said evenly. 300,000 left after settling debts. That's all. Damon's eyes dropped to the paper, his fingers hovering before picking it up. He scanned it, his expression neutral, but I saw the storm brew, his pupils dilating slightly, a subtle swallow. Too small to bother with, or a setback he hadn't expected? Zuri leaned in, her brow furrowing. Wait, that's it? She asked softly, her first real words. I met her gaze, searching for clues. Your dad had more debts than I let on. Didn't want to burden you after the funeral. Her face softened, hurt flashing, but she glanced at Damon as if gauging his reaction. He set the paper down, smiling thinly. I see. Well, family first. But his voice had an edge sharper than before. He excused himself abruptly. Bathroom. Too much coffee. Standing with a short laugh that rang hollow. As he walked away, his stride stiff, I turned to Zuri. Her eyes were wide, conflicted. Aunt, did you really threaten him? She whispered, her voice trembling. Threaten? The word hit like ice water. No, I replied firmly. I just said I'd review with my lawyer. That must have rattled him. She bit her lip, looking away, her fingers now shredding the napkin. Why defend him, or was this fear? The questions piled up, each one a weight on my chest. Damon returned, composed again, picking up his folder without a word. You know what? You're right. Let's take it slow, build trust the old way. His retreat felt too easy, like a tactical pullback. Lunch wrapped awkwardly, hugs stiff, smiles forced. As they drove off, Damon's hand on the wheel tight, Zuri waving faintly, unease settled deeper. He hadn't pushed back hard, disappointed by the small sum, but men like him didn't quit. And Zuri's silence, her worried glances, they screamed something unspoken. Was she trapped or part of it? The garden's peace mocked me now. The koi swimming carelessly. I knew one thing. The game wasn't over. Kwame patted my shoulder. Good play. But victory felt hollow, doubts lingering like shadows. 2 nights after that tense lunch, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, my phone lit up the dark room with a shrill ring. The clock glowed 2 a.m., and my heart jumped. Calls at this hour never brought good news. I fumbled for it, seeing the bank's fraud alert number. Ms. Johnson, the voice on the other end asked, calm but urgent. We flagged suspicious activity on your account, a withdrawal attempt for $300,000. My breath caught, the room suddenly too cold despite the humid Atlanta night. The account was the fake one, empty as a promise from a politician, but someone had tried anyway. From where? I whispered, sitting up, sheets tangling around me. An unfamiliar device, a tablet registered to Zuri Johnson, logged from a hotel IP. Zuri's tablet. The words hit like a punch, knocking the air from my lungs. Damon must have used it, his fingers tapping away while she slept nearby, oblivious or worse. I ended the call, the phone heavy in my hand, screen blurring as tears welled, not from fear, but rage, a deep simmering fury that made my veins burn. How dare he? That small sum was bait, and he'd swallowed it whole, revealing his greed like a mask slipping. But Zuri's device? That detail clawed at me, raw and personal. Had she given him access, her passwords shared in a moment of trust? Or had he sneaked it, his hand brushing hers as he stole more than money, her privacy, our bond? I pictured them in that honeymoon suite, lights low, Zuri's laughter fading as he plotted. The image twisted my gut, bile rising. I'd protected her from so much. The grief of losing her parents, the bullies at school who mocked her curls. Now, was she handing him the keys to destroy us? The doubt felt like betrayal, sharp as broken glass underfoot. I dialed Zuri immediately, the ring echoing in my ear like mockery. No answer. I tried again, pacing the bedroom, floorboards creaking under my weight. Still nothing. A text pinged. Resting, Aunt. Talk tomorrow? Resting. The word mocked me, simple yet loaded. Was she really asleep or covering for him? Her brevity stung. No love you, no explanation. I sank onto the edge of the bed, head in hands, the mattress dipping under my weight. Sleep. Impossible. The house felt colder, shadows lengthening across the walls like accusing fingers. I wrapped myself in a blanket, but warmth evaded me, my mind racing through memories. Zuri at 10, crying over a scraped knee, me bandaging it with kisses. At 16, she confided in her first crush. Now, this silence. Had Damon poisoned her against me, his words dripping like honeyed venom, or was she in danger, too scared to speak? The questions piled up, each one heavier, suffocating. As hours ticked by, I wandered room to room, locking windows I'd checked a dozen times, the latches clicking sharply. Every sound, a distant car, the hum of the fridge, jolted me, imagining Damon at the door with another envelope, another lie. But he wouldn't come openly now. He was insidious, worming in through trust. And Zuri, sleeping beside him, her head on his shoulder. The thought made me shudder, a chill racing up my spine. This wasn't just theft. It was a violation, stripping away the safety I'd built brick by brick. Jamal's money wasn't gold. It was security, a buffer against a world that had already taken too much from us. Damon, with his polished suits and easy grins, saw it as his prize. But using her tablet? That screamed intimacy, complicity. Tears fell then, hot on my cheeks, but I wiped them away. Crying was for later. Now I needed proof. Dawn crept in, gray light filtering through curtains, casting long shadows. I hadn't slept a wink, my eyes gritty, body aching like I'd run a marathon. The kitchen clock ticked relentlessly as I made coffee, the brew's bitter scent grounding me slightly. Mug in hand, steam curling up, I dialed Kwame. He answered groggily, but sharpened at my tone. He tried for the fake money, I said quietly, voice cracking, from Zuri's tablet at the hotel. Kwame whistled low. Bolder than I thought. Or dumber. Maybe both, but it didn't ease the pain. Need evidence it wasn't me. He assured me he was on it. IP traces, timestamps, device fingerprints. We'll nail this, he said. But as we hung up, his words felt hollow. Proof wouldn't mend the rift if Zuri were involved. The coffee burned my tongue, but I barely noticed, staring at the empty chair where she used to sit for breakfast chats. This shifted everything, not just greed, but control. Damon wasn't content with whispers. He was invading, using her as a gateway. And if she'd let him, the betrayal cut deep, questioning every hug, every "I love you." But a flicker of hope lingered. Her quiet at lunch, her evasive text. Maybe she suspected too, playing along to expose him. No, that was desperate thinking. The evidence stared back. Her device, her honeymoon. I set the mug down hard, liquid sloshing. Enough wallowing, action time. But what? Confront her? Risk pushing her away? The uncertainty paralyzed me, a weight on my chest. As morning light strengthened, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, I knew one thing. This thief slept next to my girl, and that terrified me more than any loss of money. I sent the text to Zuri that morning, my fingers hovering over the send button like it was a detonator. Come over alone, no Damon, we need to talk, just us. The words felt final. A line drawn in the sand after that bank call's revelation. As I hit send, a wave of nausea hit me, not from the coffee, but from the fear churning inside. What if she refused, or worse, showed up with him, that grin plastered on? The house was too still, the ticking clock mocking my impatience. I'd paced all night, replaying every moment, her tablet in his hands, passwords shared like secrets between lovers. Was it carelessness or deliberate? The doubt ate at me, a constant ache, questioning if the girl I'd raised could turn against me. But I had to know, had to see her eyes when I laid it bare, for Jamal's sake, for ours. She replied quickly, on my way. No questions, no delay. That simplicity unnerved me more. Was it guilt or innocence? I busied myself baking her favorite lemon cake, the zest's sharp scent filling the kitchen. A ritual from her childhood to soothe scraped knees or broken hearts. The oven's warmth contrasted with a cold dread in my bones. As the timer dinged, tires crunched on the driveway. I peeked through the curtains, her car alone, no sign of Damon. Relief mixed with tension, my pulse quickening. She walked up slowly, her steps hesitant, like approaching a storm. Her knock was soft, almost apologetic. I opened the door, pulling her into a hug. She stiffened at first, then relaxed, but not fully, her arms loose, her cheek cool against mine. We sat at the kitchen table, the cake between us, steam rising like unspoken words. Her eyes darted around, landing on family photos, the worn chairs. Familiar, yet she seemed a stranger now. "Aunt, what's going on?" she asked quietly, her voice cracking slightly. I cut her a slice, sliding it over, the fork clinking on the plate. "Eat first," I said, buying time, watching her pick at it, crumbs falling like confessions unsaid. Her fork trembled faintly. Nerves or fear? I took a breath, the lemon's tang sharp on my tongue from a test bite. "I know Damon tried accessing my account. The fake one I set up. He used your tablet." The words hung heavy, the air thickening. Her face paled, fork dropping with a clatter. "What? No, he wouldn't." But her denial felt weak, her eyes widening, not in shock, but something deeper, recognition. I leaned forward, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "He did. Triggered an alert. Why your tablet, Zuri? Did you give him the password?" She shook her head, tears welling, her hands clasping tight, knuckles whitening. "Aunt, this is crazy. You're spying, setting traps." The accusation stung, sharp as a slap, but I pressed on. "I'm protecting us. I didn't want to believe it, but I had to test him." Her breath hitched, sobs breaking free. "You think I'm in on it? That I'd rob you?" Her voice rose, cracking, her chair scraping back as she stood. The cake sat untouched, a symbol of our fractured bond. I reached for her, but she pulled away, eyes flashing hurt and anger. "This is paranoia. You hate him because you're alone." The words pierced, raw and cruel, echoing my deepest fears. Alone after all I'd given up for her. She grabbed her purse, tears streaming, the strap catching on the chair arm with a snag. I can't do this, she muttered, bolting for the door. I called after her. Zuri, wait! But she was gone, car engine roaring to life, dust kicking up as she sped away. I stood there, doorway framing the empty drive, my heart shattering like glass. The house swallowed me in silence, the cake's sweetness now cloying. Had I pushed too far? Her reaction, defensive, wounded, screamed innocence or masterful acting, but the tablet, the attempt, it pointed to complicity. Tears came then, hot and unrelenting, blurring the world. I'd lost her, my girl, to him. The pain doubled me over, hands clutching the table edge, nails digging into wood. Kwame called that afternoon, his voice a lifeline in the haze. Got the proof, IP matches the hotel, device fingerprints tie to Damon. But it barely registered, the victory hollow. It won't matter if she hates me, I whispered, voice hoarse from crying. He paused, then suggested, check the wedding videos, not just the pro ones, guest footage, live streams. He might have slipped up. The idea sparked faintly through the fog. Why not? Pride often undid men like him. I hung up, wiping my face, pulling out my laptop. The videos loaded slowly, each thumbnail a stab. Zuri's joy, now tainted. I started with the official reel, fast-forwarding through vows and dances. Nothing. Then guest clips, shaky phone vids, laughter echoing. One caught my eye, a friend's stream from the reception, camera panning the crowd. There Damon with buddies, drink in hand, laughing loudly. The audio crackled, but was clear, a pal asking, so what's next, man? Marry into money. Damon's reply boomed, proud. Not rich yet, but give me a month, you'll see. His friends hooted, clinking glasses, but the camera lingered, capturing his smug wink. My blood ran cold, then boiled. Gold, pure evidence of his scheme. He hadn't married for love, it was a heist. But Zuri, did she know? Her silence, her deference, perhaps she'd heard similar boasts, piecing it together. The video looped in my mind, his words searing. Hope flickered. Maybe she was fighting too in her way. But doubt lingered, a shadow. This clip changed everything, but exposing it risked more heartbreak. What now? Zuri stayed silent for 2 days, her absence a gaping hole in my already fractured world. No calls, no texts, just radio quiet that amplified my heartache. I'd replayed that video clip 100 times, Damon's boastful words searing into my brain like a brand. Not rich yet, but give me a month. Each viewing tightened the vice around my chest, his laugh mocking my trust. I'd sent it to Kwame, but even his assurance of its value felt distant. Sleep came in fits. The bed was too big, too empty, shadows playing tricks on the walls. Was she okay? Or had Damon twisted her further, his influence like poison seeping in? The uncertainty gnawed, leaving me raw, questioning every memory of her smile. On the third morning, as I nursed a cold coffee at the kitchen table, staring at the untouched lemon cake now stale on the counter, a knock shattered the quiet. Soft, tentative, like a plea. My heart leaped, a mix of hope and dread. I shuffled to the door, peering through the peephole. Zuri stood there alone, her posture slumped, eyes downcast, no Damon shadowing her. I opened it slowly, the hinge creaking like my wary soul. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed, swollen from tears, mascara smudged like she'd rubbed them raw. "Aunt," she whispered, voice breaking. I pulled her inside without a word, wrapping her in my arms. She collapsed against me, sobs shaking her frame, her body warm but trembling. The scent of her shampoo, coconut, familiar from her teen years, hit me, stirring a flood of tenderness amid the pain. Why now? After running, after accusing me? We moved to the living room, sinking onto the sofa where we'd shared so many secrets. She clutched a tissue, dabbing her eyes, her breath ragged. I waited, my own throat tight, hands clasped in my lap to hide the shake. The room felt charged, the air thick with unspoken truths. Finally she spoke, voice hoarse. I watched the video, the one from the wedding. My pulse quickened. How? I'd kept it close, not shared yet. He was searching for ways to crack trust on his laptop, too. Her words hung heavy, confirming my fears but opening new wounds. I reached for her hand, she let me hold it, her skin clammy. "Zuri, how did you—" She cut in, tears flowing again. "I checked his history after you told me about the account. Aunt, I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" The word echoed, confusing amid my anger, but her grip tightened, desperate. I knew about the money. My world tilted, breath catching. Knew? How? She pulled a small, worn notebook from her bag. Jamal's journal, pages yellowed, his handwriting bold and familiar. Dad's diary. I found it years ago cleaning the attic. He wrote about the inheritance, how he trusted you to protect it. The revelation slammed into me, a tidal wave. All this time, she'd known the full 10 million hidden under false names, safeguarded from greedy eyes. Why hadn't she said? Betrayal flared hot, but her eyes pleaded, raw with regret. I didn't tell you because I saw how it burdened you. After losing him, raising me alone, I wanted to handle things myself. Let you rest. Rest? The irony stung, but she continued, voice steadier now, wiping her cheeks. When Damon started pushing those papers, I suspected. His questions about family finances were too probing, his eyes lighting up at mentions of stability. I played along, signed quickly, stayed quiet to watch him gather proof. Played along. Her minimal words that night, her nods, they weren't submission, they were strategy. Letting him lead, observing his greed unfold. The pieces clicked, shifting my view like a kaleidoscope. Not complicit, but cunning. My girl, protecting me in shadows. But Damon? He doesn't know the exact amount, she said, flipping the journal. Just vague hints from Dad's old relatives. They hired him, you know. Those cousins who fought us after the funeral. Damon owed them gambling debts. They used him as a pawn, promising a cut if he got close through me. Pawn. The word humanized him slightly, but rage simmered. Those relatives, Jamal's side, always resentful of his success, whispering about unfair shares. I'd shut them out years ago, but they'd circled back, using marriage as a Trojan horse. Zuri's eyes met mine, fierce now. I let him use my tablet, pretended to trust him fully, to see how far he'd go. His searches, the attempts, it was all ammo. Ammo. Her plan mirrored mine, but bolder, riskier, sleeping beside the enemy, feigning love. The courage hit me, pride swelling amid the shock. Why alone? You sacrificed so much for me, she whispered, after Mom and Dad. You gave up everything. I wanted to be strong for you this time, fix it without worrying you. Tears pricked my eyes. I squeezed her hand. Orphaned young, she'd watched me struggle. Late shifts, skipped meals, to keep us afloat. Now repaying in silence, her way. The twist reframed everything, her evasion, her defense. Not betrayal, but love's fierce shield. Relief washed over me, warm as sunlight breaking clouds, but questions lingered. How deep did the relatives' plot run? And Damon, pawn or willing? His boast suggested eagerness. Zuri leaned in, journal between us. We can stop them together now. Together, the word mended cracks, but caution whispered. Exposing this meant confronting family ghosts, risking more pain. As we hugged again, her sobs easing, hope flickered. My girl wasn't lost, she was my ally, but the fight loomed, shadows lengthening. What next? I stepped into Kwame's downtown office the next afternoon, the glass walls reflecting my tense face like a mirror I didn't want to see. The space was modern, sterile, polished floors echoing my footsteps, cameras whirring softly overhead. Zuri walked beside me, her hand in mine, clammy but firm. She'd insisted on coming, her eyes determined despite the shadows under them. I need to face him, she'd said earlier, voice steady but laced with pain. I nodded, but inside turmoil raged. This confrontation wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was ripping open wounds I'd thought healed, family betrayals, lost trust. Kwame greeted us at the door, his nod reassuring, but his briefcase bulged with evidence that felt like weapons. As we settled in the conference room, the air-conditioned chill raised goosebumps on my arms, or maybe it was the dread pooling in my stomach. Damon arrived 10 minutes late, sauntering in like he owned the place, black sweater casual but sunglasses perched on his head, a celebrity in his own mind. His grin faltered seeing us three, but he recovered quickly, sitting across the table with a casual lean. "What's this about?" he asked, voice light, but I caught the twitch in his left eye. Nervous tick? Or calculation? Zuri stiffened beside me, her breath shallow, fingers digging into her palm. Kwame slid the folder over without preamble, his tone even. A courtesy review of our findings. Damon flipped it open, pages rustling, his face paling as he scanned. Logs, IPs, the video transcript glaring back. His body language shifted subtly. Shoulders hunching, fingers gripping the edge like he'd rip it. "This proves nothing," he snapped, but his voice cracked higher than usual. No crime? Maybe not yet, but the intent screamed from every line. Kwame laid it out: identity misuse, coercion attempts, and the bragging clip sealing it. Damon's eyes darted to Zuri, narrowing, a flash of accusation. You told them. She didn't flinch, her chin lifting. No, you did. The air thickened, charged like before a storm. I watched him closely, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed hard. That polished facade cracked, revealing the desperation beneath, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool room. Was this the real him, cornered and small? He slammed the folder shut, the thud echoing. What do you want? His tone turned bitter, defeated. I leaned forward, my voice calm but steel-edged. Walk away, sign the annulment, release Zuri from joint accounts and all claims. No court, no fight. He laughed, harsh and hollow, but his hands shook as he folded his arms. Or what? Kwame pulled the second folder. Public exposure threat, reporter on standby. Damon's face twisted, calculation flickering. He stared at Zuri, expectant, like she'd cave. She didn't, sliding the pen across, her gaze steady. It's over. He snatched it, signing with jerky strokes, ink smudging slightly. Rushed, angry. Each page flip felt like a victory, but bittersweet, my heart aching for her loss. As he finished, standing abruptly, chair scraping back, he fixed me with a glare. You think you've won? But his voice wavered, shoulders slumping. He left without another word, door clicking shut like a final punctuation. Zuri broke then, sobs racking her, and I held her, rocking gently, her tears soaking my shoulder. The room's quiet amplified her pain, the glass walls closing in. Relief washed over me, but guilt nipped. Had I pushed too hard? She pulled back, eyes searching mine. It's done. But her voice held remnants of love shattered, making my chest tighten. Damon was gone, but the scars lingered. We left the office, the sun setting, long shadows stretching on the sidewalk. Zuri walked closer, our steps sinking. Forgiveness hovered, partial. She'd chosen me, but the hurt ran deep. Back home, questions swirled. How to heal? The relatives' role loomed, but for now we had each other. Peace felt tentative, but real. In the days following that office showdown, a fragile peace settled over us like a soft blanket after a storm, warming but tentative. Zuri stayed with me, her bags unpacked in her old room, the space still holding echoes of her teenage posters and stuffed animals. We'd talk late into the nights, voices low over cups of chamomile tea, the steam curling up in lazy swirls that mirrored our unraveling emotions. No more secrets. That was our pact, sealed with tear-streaked hugs. But forgiveness didn't come easy. It crept in slowly, like dawn light, filtering through blinds. I'd catch myself watching her, searching for remnants of doubt, her hand pausing mid-stir as she made coffee, or her eyes glazing over during quiet moments. Was the hurt fully mended or just patched? The questions lingered, soft but persistent, reminding me that healing wasn't linear. One evening, as we sat on the porch swing, the Atlanta sunset painting the sky in oranges and pinks, she broached the money. Aunt, about the inheritance. Her voice trailed, fingers twisting the chain of her necklace, a habit from childhood when nerves hit. I nodded, the swing creaking rhythmically under our weight. It's time we decide what to do with it. The 10 million had loomed like a shadow, but now with Damon gone and the relatives' threats neutralized by Kwame's legal warnings, it felt like potential, not peril. Zuri leaned her head on my shoulder, her hair tickling my cheek. No more hiding. Let's use it for good. Good. The word resonated, stirring memories of Jamal's generosity, how he'd slipped 20s to neighbors in need, his laugh booming as he said, family extends beyond blood. We brainstormed over dinner that night, spaghetti twirling on forks, garlic bread crunching warmly. The kitchen table, once a site of tension, now held laughter, tentative at first, then fuller. A scholarship fund, Zuri suggested, sauce dotting her chin like a freckle. For black kids in Atlanta like me, orphans chasing dreams. I wiped it away with a napkin, my touch lingering. Orphans. The word tugged at my heart, reminding me of her wide-eyed arrival, clutching a teddy bear. And a community center, I added, voice thick. Health clinics, classes, places where women like us can thrive. Her eyes lit up, nodding vigorously, fork waving. The ideas flowed, each one mending a crack, turning pain into purpose. But doubt whispered, Was this enough to erase the betrayal's sting? Damon's shadow, the relatives' greed, it had shaken our foundation. Yet here we were, rebuilding brick by shared dream. Implementing it took weeks, but the process bonded us deeper. We met with advisors, Kwame guiding us through trusts and nonprofits, his pen scratching forms with precise strokes. Zuri's energy amazed me. Her calls to donors, her sketches of center layouts, pencils flying across paper. I'd watch from the doorway, pride swelling, but laced with reflection. At 65, single and battle-worn from racism, subtle jabs, denied promotions, sidelong glances, I'd learned strength in solitude. Now sharing this load felt vulnerable, exposing frailties I'd hidden. "You're not alone anymore," Zuri said one afternoon, catching my distant stare. Her hand on mine, warm and steady, chased the chill away. Alone. The word had defined me, but perhaps it didn't have to. The first donation felt ceremonial, wiring funds to start the scholarship, the computer's click echoing like a door unlocking. Zuri squeezed my arm, her nails painted fresh pink, a sign of her reclaiming joy. "Dad would be proud." Jamal's face flashed in my mind, his grin wide, eyes kind. Yes, he would, but pride mixed with sorrow. For the years lost to secrets, the trust nearly shattered. Evenings we'd cook together, pots bubbling, spices wafting, collard greens simmering, cornbread baking golden. Over meals, promises formed. "No more secrets," I'd say, fork pausing mid-bite. She'd nod, eyes sincere. "And more trust." The words healed, slow but sure, like balm on a bruise. One night, as rain pattered against windows, we ate in comfortable quiet, the storm outside mirroring past turmoil. "Aunt, I forgive you for doubting me," she said suddenly, voice soft over the clink of plates. "Forgive me." The reversal hit hard, guilt surfacing. I'd accused her, pushed her away. "And I you for the silence." We hugged then, dishes forgotten, her heartbeat sinking with mine. The rain eased, leaving fresh air, a cleanse. Living flat now, without secrets weight, felt lighter. Walks in the park, her arm linked in mine, laughter freer. But courage grew too. I saw my strength reflected in her. A woman forged from loss, yet standing tall. The community impact bloomed. First scholarship awarded to a bright teen. Her thank you hug tight, eyes shining. The center's groundbreaking, shovels digging earth, cameras flashing. Our story inspiring others. Black women rising, a reporter said, but it was more. Family triumphing over greed. Relatives faded, their threats empty after exposure. Damon vanished, a ghost. In quiet moments, I'd reflect. Silence had saved us once, shielding the money, but unity fortified, turning vulnerability to power. As we shared a final dinner, spaghetti sauce simmering, promises renewed, peace settled deep, life ahead together. Storms weathered, bonds unbreakable.